To the east, Miami, one of the fastest growing cities in America. To the west, the Gulf of Mexico, stretching endlessly toward the horizon. But sitting between them is something completely different. A massive expanse of sawgrass, shallow water, and dense wilderness that looks almost untouched from above. This is the Everglades, one of the most important wetlands on Earth. But when a wildfire recently tore through part of the sawgrass, it briefly stripped away the cover hiding that problem. And the strangest part is that we may have only just started to understand what is happening. So, what exactly is hiding inside the Everglades? And why could it change the way we see this entire ecosystem? I'm Toby, and this is the unbelievable story of the emergency hiding beneath the Everglades. Before we get to what the fire uncovered, we need to start with the problem that brought researchers there in the first place. The Everglades has a python problem. Burmese pythons are native to Southeast Asia, but sometime around the 1980s or 90s, they began appearing in South Florida. The most likely explanation is that escaped and deliberately released pets gradually established themselves in the wild. There is also a long-standing story that Hurricane Andrew in 1992 damaged a python breeding facility and released a large number of snakes, although that may have accelerated a population that was already beginning to develop through individual releases. By the 2000s, wildlife biologists were documenting an established breeding population, and the consequences were becoming difficult to ignore. The problem was not simply that these snakes were large. Burmese pythons had entered an ecosystem where native wildlife had never evolved alongside them, which meant there was no natural predator specifically keeping their numbers under control. A widely cited study from around 2012 compared mammal populations in areas with heavy python presence against areas where pythons were absent. In the most affected areas, sightings of raccoons, opossums, and other mammals had fallen by roughly 90 to 99%, while bobcats and rabbits were also severely affected. That matters because these animals are part of a much larger system. When mammals that once moved seeds through the ecosystem become scarce, the plants they interacted with can be affected as well. Predators that depended on those mammals lose part of their food supply, and other species can change their behavior in response. If you're enjoying the story so far, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, back to the search, because researchers had another unusual way of finding these snakes. So the python problem is really an ecosystem problem. And then there is the size of the snakes themselves. Some Burmese pythons found in Florida have grown beyond 18 feet long and weighed more than 200 pounds. Researchers have even found large individuals that had consumed prey as large as a deer. But what really makes these snakes so difficult to control? A large python can remain motionless inside the tall sawgrass, where its coloring makes it extremely difficult to distinguish from the surrounding vegetation. Because it is an ambush predator, it does not need to move around constantly. It can simply wait for prey to come close. That makes estimating the true size of the population extremely difficult. Researchers can remove the snakes they find, but there may be many more nearby that nobody has ever seen. So what happens when the Everglades burn? When a wildfire moves through the sawgrass, it can temporarily remove the vegetation that normally hides the snakes. For a short period, the ground becomes much easier to see from the air, and survey teams have reported spotting pythons stretched across the exposed, ash-covered landscape. It is not a special hunting technique so much as a temporary change in the environment. For a few weeks before the vegetation grows back, an area that normally makes the snakes almost impossible to detect becomes much easier to search. Florida has also developed more organized ways of dealing with the problem. The state runs the Florida Python Challenge, an annual competition that offers cash prizes for removing Burmese pythons, with awards based on factors including the number of snakes captured and the length of the largest one. Professional contractors also work year-round to remove pythons from public lands. So how do researchers find snakes they cannot see? They capture male pythons, implant them with radio transmitters, and release them back into the wild during breeding season. The idea is that a male searching for a mate can lead researchers toward females that would be much harder to find on their own. The technique is sometimes referred to as the scout snake program. So by this point, the story seemed fairly straightforward. South Florida had an invasive predator that was difficult to find. Native wildlife was suffering, and researchers were developing increasingly creative ways to locate and remove the snakes. But what else did the wildfire expose? While a survey team was scanning recently burned ground for pythons, someone noticed several raised mounds scattered across the landscape. At first, there was nothing particularly unusual about that. Wetlands naturally develop areas of higher ground as vegetation dies, accumulates, and eventually compresses into peat. So what made these mounds different? Some were roughly circular, others had distinct edges, and a few appeared to have unusually straight sides, almost as though they had been shaped intentionally. The first explanation was that they were simply natural peat formations. That was the sensible assumption. But the more closely researchers looked, the harder that explanation became to maintain. Peat can accumulate into raised areas, but it does not normally create repeated shapes that appear to follow a recognizable pattern. So a team went into the burned area on foot. They crossed the ash and soft ground to examine the mounds more closely, and what they found raised a much bigger question. There were white shell fragments, worked stone flakes, and what appeared to be fired pottery. Suddenly, these were not just unusual bumps in the Everglades. There was evidence that people had been here. But how old were these mounds? Because if these materials were genuinely connected to the mounds, the story was about to become much older than anyone expected. The first thing researchers had to establish was whether these materials were actually connected to the mounds, rather than simply being objects that happened to be lying nearby. The distinction mattered because South Florida has a long history of human activity. Modern drainage and dredging have moved enormous amounts of material across the Everglades, while Seminole and Miccosukee communities have also used elevated areas within the wetlands more recently. So there were several possible explanations that needed to be considered before anyone could say these were ancient sites. But then researchers started looking at what the mounds were actually made of. They found large concentrations of freshwater apple snail shells. Apple snails are a normal part of the Everglades ecosystem, and they are particularly important because they are the primary food source of the snail kite. So finding individual shells in the wetlands is not unusual. What was unusual was the way they were concentrated inside these mounds. Instead of being scattered naturally through the marsh, the shells appeared in dense layers, suggesting that people may have been collecting the snails, consuming them, and repeatedly leaving the shells in the same places. That raised another question. How long had this been happening? Researchers turned to radiocarbon dating, and the results pushed the story back thousands of years. Some of the material dated to more than 3,000 years ago, while some of the deepest samples approached 5,000 years. Those dates are important because they suggest this was not one brief period of occupation. The deposits were separated by layers of soil, ash, and organic material, indicating that the locations may have been used, abandoned, and then used again over long periods of time. So why would people keep returning to the same locations? The answer may have been the simplest one. The Everglades is an extremely flat landscape, and much of it consists of shallow water and marsh. In that environment, even a small area of elevated ground would have been valuable. It could provide somewhere to build a shelter, keep food and belongings dry, and stay above the surrounding water. If people found a place like that, they had a reason to keep using it. They could catch fish, collect freshwater snails, process food, and leave the remains in the same general area. Over time, the shells would accumulate, the ground would gradually rise, and plants and trees could begin growing on the new surface. Eventually, the roots of those trees would help stabilize the elevated ground. The result could be a raised island that looked completely natural, even though its formation had been influenced by generations of human activity. That is one of the possibilities researchers are now investigating. Some of the Everglades tree islands may be anthropogenic landforms, meaning they were created or significantly modified by people. That does not mean every tree island was built this way, but it raises the possibility that researchers have been looking at human-shaped features without realizing it. So why had these features remained hidden for so long? The Everglades had simply covered them up. Dense sawgrass grew across the landscape. Hardwood trees established themselves on the higher ground. And eventually, the mounds looked like ordinary parts of the wetland. From the surface, there might have been no obvious indication that anything unusual was underneath. Now, how could researchers find more of these features? That is where LiDAR became important. LiDAR uses laser measurements to map elevation, allowing researchers to identify subtle changes in the shape of the ground beneath vegetation. Instead of simply seeing the trees and sawgrass, researchers can examine the underlying terrain. When they applied this approach around the original discovery, they found dozens of additional raised features. Some were barely higher than the surrounding marsh, while others had been so thoroughly hidden by vegetation that they had not appeared on conventional archaeological maps. Researchers then went back to older LiDAR surveys that had originally been collected for hydrology and water flow studies. When that existing data was examined with the possibility of ancient human landforms in mind, more potential sites appeared. In other words, the information had already been there. Researchers simply had not been looking at it from this perspective. That does not mean every feature on those maps is archaeological. Some raised areas are naturally formed, and an unusual shape on a LiDAR survey is not enough to prove that people created it. To establish that, researchers need to excavate the features, examine the material inside them, and establish reliable dates. And that process takes time. Some of these investigations could continue for years. But even the possibility changes the way we think about the Everglades. If you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. With that in mind, the discovery of these hidden features raises an even bigger question. For decades, the region has been presented as one of North America's great examples of relatively untouched wilderness. But if some of these raised islands were shaped by people thousands of years ago, then the landscape was never completely untouched in the first place. It may have been a lived landscape, where people adapted to the wetlands and gradually changed small parts of their surroundings through ordinary activities that continued for generations. And that matters because the Everglades is not simply being preserved today. It is being restored. Modern restoration projects are designed to repair decades of changes to water flow, canals, habitats, and wetlands. The goal is to bring parts of the ecosystem closer to historical conditions that existed before modern development. But what happens if some of these natural features are actually ancient cultural sites? A mound that looks like an ordinary tree island could contain thousands of years of archaeological evidence. Changes in water flow could affect it, and physical disturbance could destroy information that cannot be recovered. It also raises a broader question about who gets to decide what the Everglades should look like in the future. If the landscape contains evidence of indigenous communities that lived there thousands of years ago, then that history is not simply something preserved in a museum. It is part of the landscape itself. And perhaps the strangest part of this discovery is how it happened. Researchers were not originally searching for ancient human settlements. They were looking for pythons. A wildfire had burned through the sawgrass, temporarily making the snakes easier to see, and a survey team was there to take advantage of that opportunity. Then, someone noticed the mounds. The fire had removed the vegetation that normally concealed them, just as it had removed the vegetation concealing the pythons. One investigation had unexpectedly revealed another, and that may be the most important lesson from the discovery. The Everglades has been studied for generations, but there are still parts of its history that can remain almost completely invisible until the conditions are right. The Burmese python problem is still very real. Native wildlife has suffered, and removing these invasive snakes remains an important part of managing the ecosystem. But the fire revealed that the pythons were not the only story beneath the grass. There may also be evidence of people who were living in this landscape thousands of years ago, and gradually shaping parts of it through everyday life. That changes the way the Everglades looks. A tree island that appears completely natural may have a human history. A raised patch of ground may contain layers of activity stretching back thousands of years. And what appears to be untouched wilderness may actually be a combination of natural processes and human history that have become impossible to separate. So when you look across the Everglades today, there may be far more beneath that endless sea of grass than you can see from the surface. The wildfire was supposed to help researchers find Burmese pythons. Instead, it also exposed evidence of a much older story. And perhaps that is the real emergency hiding in the Everglades. We are trying to protect and restore a landscape that may still contain thousands of years of history we have only just begun to recognize. The challenge now is not simply finding what is hidden beneath the grass. It is making sure we understand it before we change the landscape around it forever. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe. And if you want to keep exploring things most people overlook, check out this video next about 25 crazy facts about the Western US that are absolute rustedly wild. Trust me, it's one of my favorite videos I've made.